Ghost Recon, a franchise that has taken its fans on a roller coaster of emotions over the last few years. What started as a beloved but brutal tactical shooter has turned into, well, whatever it is now. Oh,
That's my bad.
he murdered me with the bike. As a fan of the Ghost Recon franchise, I have been posting Ghost Recon content on my channel since September of 2022. But outside of my channel, I've been playing Ghost Recon games as they've released as long as I can remember. But since I've been posting content on my channel and on various platforms, I've noticed that the Ghost Recon fanbase is very passionate about what they like, and also very passionate about what they don't like. Earlier this year, we received some very vague leaks about an upcoming Ghost Recon project. This project, codenamed Project Over, has fans wondering what is in store for the Ghost Recon franchise. As I've been playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint and Wildlands over the last little bit, it's made me wonder what features would I like to see in the new Ghost Recon game, and maybe even more importantly, what features do I not want to return. In today's video, we're going to go over some of the features that the community and myself do not want to see in the next Ghost Recon game, along with some of the things that I personally would like to return and some of the things that I'd like to see done in addition to returning features in the new Ghost Recon project. Before we dive in, if you do enjoy Ghost Recon content, I make lots of it, so make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss any upcoming Ghost Recon content. You can find my long form videos on YouTube and my short form videos on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. I'll also have you know that I tried to record this video once already and it was over 40 minutes long. That's how bad I ranted. So I have consolidated all my points down to a list. We're going to go over them and I will try to be brief, but I want the next Ghost Recon game to be so good. But also make sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below as we go throughout this video. So let's go. Okay, so to begin, let's go over things that we do not want to return. So this comes from my personal opinion, as well as some of the community posts and comments that I saw on Reddit. So obviously take those with a grain of salt, but these are the ones that I saw most often. So let me know if you agree or disagree, and I may have a few honorable mentions as we go along. Okay, so first on our list, we have Bullet Sponge AI. I saw several comments about people complaining that the AI in Breakpoint, not so much Wildlands, but we can probably lump them together because they were fairly similar. The AI in those games tend to just eat bullets. They just consume them. And for a game franchise that began as a tactical shooter, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you have to dump half or more in a magazine into an enemy. Next is the futuristic environment, or essentially having to fight robots or drones. This one I do agree with. I can see what they're going for, and Ghost Recon games in the past have focused on a more futuristic environment, but they've been able to do so while still allowing the story to focus on fighting human enemies. In Future Soldier, for example, the technology is advanced, but you're not fighting robots or drones the whole time. You're still in an environment where you're fighting human enemies, the occasional vehicles with humans piloting them, but the only difference is that you have enhanced technology to assist you on your missions. And last, but certainly not least, can I get a drum roll, please? That's right, it's gear score. People hate gear score. I don't play with it. Most of the people I talk to don't play with it on. Unfortunately, multiplayer requires you to play with it on. That's a whole different issue. But the opinion I saw on Reddit, which was repeated most often and with the most passion, is to get rid of gear score. So I sincerely hope that they can get rid of that system in the new Ghost Recon game and get back to the roots of the Ghost Recon franchise. A few honorable mentions for things that we do not want to return would be subpar weapon ballistics, the ration system, the crafting system, repetitive goose chase missions, weird janky cutscenes.
Unless you're a telepathic private eye.
Yeah, Pexplo man.
And probably more that you can think of. Alright, next up is what I personally want to return in the next Ghost Recon game. I didn't have any community feedback on this one, but please let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. So the first thing that I want to return is the movement style that we got in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, some people may disagree with me, but compared to Wildlands, I feel like the movement of the player in general is much more smooth, much more tactical feeling, and it just feels more natural overall. Now, I don't want them to just copy paste. Obviously, I would like to see them improve upon that to try to iron out any of the weird bugs that may occur depending on what terrain you're on, what situation you're in. It would be nice for them to polish that, use the Ghost Recon Breakpoint movement style as kind of a foundation to move that forward. The next thing I'd like to see return comes from both Wildlands and Breakpoint, both done in different styles, but I would like to see a realism Wildlands/Ghost mode. Wildlands had the Ghost mode where you could play through, and it had a permadeath feature, so the character would die, you would have to recreate a new character and play all over again from the beginning. Breakpoint had a realism experience, or the Ghost experience, where you could remove the HUD, you could increase enemy difficulty, and increase the overall immersion as you play through the story of Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I would like to see this return, but again, with the movement style, I would like to see a even more hardcore realism experience. Just from what I've seen on YouTube, a lot of the popular videos in Ghost Recon Breakpoint are the extreme difficulty, limited to no HUD gameplay videos of people going in and just being fully immersed in the game. I think a large portion of the fan base yearns for an experience where they can fully immerse themselves in Ghost Recon, and they would like to fight an enemy AI that is threatening but not overbearing, one that reacts naturally to things but doesn't automatically know where you are at the drop of a hat. This is something that I think, if done right, would be a huge win for Ghost Recon fans, both those that currently play the game or those who have stepped away based on the last 2 releases. Alright, and the last thing that I would want to see return is something that seems like a no-brainer, but for some reason wasn't in Breakpoint or maybe even Wildlands, and that is the ability to actually use the attachments that you put on your gun. And what I mean by that is, the one big example I can think of is the bipod. So in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, you can put a bipod on your weapon, but all it does is just change the weapon's stats. It's not usable, it's not deployable. It's essentially just a showpiece for your weapon. And don't get me wrong, it looks great. A lot of people put it on there because it looks good. But at the end of the day, if you can't use a bipod, then why do we even have the option to put on a bipod? This one really confuses me, because having played Ghost Recon Future Soldier recently, that game featured the option to deploy your bipod. And that game came out in 2012. So it's things like that that just make me wonder, what are we doing? And for this category, my honorable mention is the photo mode. I do want the photo mode to return. I want it to be improved upon, made even better than it currently is. This is purely for selfish reasons. I love using in-game photo modes to get some sweet screenshots, both for thumbnails for YouTube videos, but just for fun as well. So for all of you Ghost Recon photographers out there, I know you'll agree with me. And lastly, these are some things that I would like to see in the new Ghost Recon game that may not necessarily be something that has been or hasn't been in previous games, but just some general thoughts that I think would really improve the reception of a new Ghost Recon title. The first one for me is just an increased overall AI presence. This one will tie in with another one I'll mention here in a minute. Ghost Recon Breakpoint especially had this issue where the world just felt empty. You know, the story essentially dictated that there weren't a ton of civilians on this island. It was controlled by this enemy force, but for some reason you can only find this enemy force in packs of like 2 or 3 guys in the woods and at outposts and bases. Otherwise, they're pretty much nowhere to be seen. And even the bases can be taken down fairly easily if you're doing slightly more than the bare minimum. So I think an increased AI presence, or even just the option to control it as part of like a realism mode, if we had the option to increase or decrease presence of the AI based on preference, I think that would be a huge feature that would change the way the game can be played and increase replayability, as you can set it to different amounts to test out different scenarios and give the player a variety of options to choose from. Like I mentioned before, the world of Breakpoint felt really empty, and something that I want to see in the next Ghost Recon game is a dynamic and interactive world. I think Wildlands did a really good job of having a world that felt alive. You had civilians in the streets, civilians in different towns, you had traffic, you had enemy AI that were wandering around as well, and compared to Breakpoint, it just actually felt like a world that was being lived in. In the new Ghost Recon game, it would be awesome to see a world that not only feels lived in, but has dynamic interactions, things that can happen just out of nowhere, that can catch the player off guard, or they can cause the player to divert their plan to address whatever's happening. Just something to keep the gameplay fresh and keep it from getting repetitive. And the last one for me will be a little bit more of a rant, but I'll try to keep it brief. I think that the best thing that can be done for the next Ghost Recon game is detail. And it sounds silly. It sounds kind of dumb when you just say, well, duh, you want a game to be detailed. But as I've played Wildlands and I've played Breakpoint, I think the moments that make me enjoy the game the most are the ones where I feel immersed in the world and in the game. And one of the biggest factors in immersion is the detail. Now, full disclosure, I am not a game developer. I am not an executive for a large gaming company. But from the player's perspective, I truly feel like if they want people to react positively, and if they want players to receive this game more positively than they received Breakpoint or even Wildlands, but especially Breakpoint, then I truly feel like they need to take the time, make the effort to get every possible detail they can right. You know, I think of things like the prone camo system. I really enjoyed it. I think that they could take that element and just iron it out a little bit more, polish it a little bit, make it even better than it currently is. I think of like the injury system in Breakpoint. I'm a huge fan of that. When you get injured, you get shot in the leg, starts to limp. I'm not sure if that, I don't think that's like specific to where you get shot, but if they did something like that, that would be kind of crazy. But you get injured, you start to limp. If you're crawling, you crawl, you're kind of just like pulling yourself along because you're hurt so bad. Certain injuries are worse than others. I feel like they have the foundation for all those things, but they need to take that and just dive a little bit deeper, just get a little bit more of the detail out of it. And I feel like they could come up with a lot of cool elements and cool features that bring a freshness and ultimately increase the immersion of the game. So if you haven't heard this word enough in one video, immersion, I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. I think people want to be immersed in Ghost Recon. I think they want to get back to the roots of a franchise that started as an actually really difficult tactical shooter. I'm super excited for the next Ghost Recon game, but I'm cautiously optimistic because I know that Ubisoft has it in them to do this correctly. We've seen it in the past. There are some amazing Ghost Recon games, and obviously there are, and people that love it, or else we wouldn't be here talking about Ghost Recon at all. So clearly they've had success in the past, and clearly they have some references to pull from to know what the audience wants and what we are hoping to see in the next Ghost Recon game. So again, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree, if you think I forgot anything, because I know there's countless things I could list in every category, so I know I definitely missed some things, so let me know. And if you're looking forward to the next Ghost Recon title, make sure to subscribe, as I can assure you we will be covering it as more news comes out and as the game gets closer to release. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, good hunting.